Hey, how's it going? This is Team Limited Slip. I'm the driver of the S95 and GT500, and I'll be reviewing the upper and lower control arms from BMR with spherical bearings. So please stay tuned if you want to know how these lower control arms work on the car and how my car's been performing for the last probably 4 to 5 years now with these control arms.
So I'm going to mention 3 things about this: ride quality, performance, and durability. But before we get into this, I want to mention a couple things about control arms from BMR. BMR offers a variety of control arms, so depending on the application or what you're trying to do with your vehicle, they have tons of options. So to help everybody out, I'm going to try to explain what all these options are and what they do. So let's start off with what type of bushings BMR offers. So BMR uses spherical bearings and polyurethane bushings on most of their control arms. And you have either the option of non-adjustable, single adjustable, or dual adjustable control arms. With that said, let's look at option 1 and 2. So option 1 is a polyurethane bushing, non-adjustable control arm. Option 2 is a spherical bearing style, non-adjustable control arm. And both of these allow a spring to sit on top of them. They also have provisions for you to bolt on the sway bar. Now let's look at option 3 and 4. Option number 3 has a polyurethane bushing on one end and a spherical bearing on the other end, and it is a single adjustable control arm that allows the spring to also rest on top of it. Option 3 also has a provision for you to bolt on the sway bar. Option number 4 has spherical bearings on both ends, and it is dual adjustable and also allows a spring to sit on top of it. However, it does not include the provisions for you to bolt on a sway bar. So these control arms are pretty much if you want to keep your stock configuration of spring / strut being separate on the rear of the vehicle. However, keep in mind that option 4 does not allow you to bolt on the sway bar because it does not have the provisions. Now let's move on to this final control arm, which is not part of the 4. This one's separate. This one does not have any provisions for the springs or for the sway bar. It comes with spherical bearings and it is dual adjustable. So these offset control arms are for the Mustang that has coilovers in the rear attached to the axle, so they do not have springs going on top of the control arm, and they also have a relocated sway bar. Again, the sway bar that is not bolted onto the control arm. That's why these control arms have no provisions. So just to recap on what provisions are, if you look at the lower control arms on the upper side of the image, those are the provisions. The ones in the bottom do not have any provisions. Alright, so let's move on to the upper control arms. I'm going to keep them in the same order as the last ones. So the first 2 are basically non-adjustable. Number 1 has polyurethane bushings and number 2 has spherical bearings. Number 3 and 4 are adjustable. Number 3 has a polyurethane bushing and number 4 has a spherical bearing. They are both on-car adjustable. And let's not forget about the last control arms. So these go with the control arms that have no provisions. They are single adjustable with spherical bearings. I think this is worth mentioning. So a lot of people don't like modifying the upper control arm because they say it's not necessary. Other people also mention that if you get too stiff of a bushing on the side that bolts onto the subframe of the vehicle, you could damage the subframe of the vehicle. And there's people that don't run control arms at all on the top because they have either a pan rod bar with a torque arm, or they have some other combination that does not need the upper control arms. Regarding about what I mentioned about installing a stiffer bushing on the upper control arm on the top where it bolts onto the subframe, I'm not entirely sure if that's true. To be specific, I installed these control arms in 2017, and so far there's no damage from the upper control arms anywhere. I have been racing this car since 2020 on multiple tracks and multiple events, and so far they're holding up pretty good. I think before making the purchase of buying the upper control arms, maybe you should do some research, and if you're considering on installing a pan rod bar with a torque arm, maybe you don't need to buy the upper control arms. So just something to think about. When building your car, you have to be realistic. Is it your daily driver that you drive on the streets, or is it going to be a straight race car? Or maybe you want to do both. Just keep in mind that high performance parts are not ideal for daily driving. The reason is because you may have to sacrifice some ride quality. Now that we know all the options, let's start with the bushing, finding the correct bushing for your application. So I will be using this chart to help us out. So basically, stock rubber bushings are very soft They have excellent ride quality. They are very quiet on the street, but they offer very poor performance. Now, if you upgrade to polyurethane bushings, expect some noise due to the fact that they're a lot more stiffer than the stock rubber bushings. However, you will get an increase in performance. And lastly, let's talk about spherical bearings. Spherical bearings offer the most performance. However, they're not ideal for the streets due to the fact that they're not a bushing at all. They're made out of metal and they don't really absorb the impacts from the street or the imperfections as good as a polyurethane or the rubber bushing. So we got to make the decision now of non-adjustable or adjustable. That's a choice you're going to come across. And what determines that decision is whether you're going to lower the vehicle or keep it at stock ride height. So for example, in my case, I decided to get non-adjustable spherical bearing control arms. One, I don't really care about noise. And two, I did not want to adjust anything at the time. Now, with that mentioned, my vehicle is slightly lowered, so I do feel some slight vibration due to the fact that my pinion angle is slightly off. It is not terrible, and the vibration can also be due to the fact that I do not have the polyurethane bushings, it has spherical bearing bushings. I think if I would have watched this video, I would have more than likely gone with the adjustable control arms, due to the fact that my vehicle is lowered and I'm constantly upgrading my vehicle. So if your plan is to lower your vehicle, it would definitely be a good idea to buy the adjustable control arms, because if you lower it, the pinion angle is definitely going to change. So to correct that condition, you use adjustable control arms to set the correct driveline angle or pinion angle. This is very important because the incorrect driveline angle or the incorrect pinion angle can lead to vibration. If you want to check your pinion angle, BMR does sell a tool and it's not expensive. That way you can check that. Alright, so let's start with the review. So let's start with ride quality. So the ride quality did change on my vehicle. Now I can feel more vibration from the road and there's slightly more noise due to the fact that I don't have the a rubber bushing or a polyurethane bushing. However, for me, it's still tolerable. I do drive this car every day, but if you're very sensitive to noise, I suggest sticking with a polyurethane bushing or go back to the stock control arms with brand new bushings. Performance-wise, big difference compared to the stock stamped steel control arms. As soon as I install them, I feel the difference right away, especially off the line. The car becomes, well, at least it feels more responsive to me. And it definitely gets you off the line quicker. I went drag racing and it dropped 2/10. Durability-wise, these control arms are pretty good. They have not developed any rust of any kind. And I've removed my differential multiple times and checked the bearings individually. They're holding up pretty good, and it's been more than 5 years now. So would I recommend these control arms? Yeah, I would recommend them for anybody who's looking to get more performance out of their Mustang. But don't expect the ride quality to be the same as stock, because it's not going to be the same. So the question is, was it worth it losing some ride quality over the performance gains these control arms offer? In my opinion, and for my application for what I'm doing, they are worth it. Even before installing my panhard bar, it helped me reduce the axle windup these cars get. In other words, it helped me reduce the snap oversteer these cars have, and that's a condition they have when you have these stock control arms on these cars. It doesn't eliminate it completely, but it helps you keep the vehicle more under control. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something from this video. I try to include as much as I can, because back when I was younger, I would look for videos of reviews on a lot of these control arms, and it was hard to find a lot of stuff. And if I did find stuff, there wasn't much on it. So I try to explain or to help out people, make the right decisions for their car and for their application. Some people drive their cars only on the street, then there's others that only drive it at the racetrack, and then there's some that do both. That's why I try to include as much information as I can. That way, when you buy something, you know exactly what you're buying, and you're not here expecting the car to ride a certain way, and you know exactly what you're getting into. So once again, thanks for watching. Stay up. If you enjoyed this content, please support us by subscribing. Thank you.